Welcome back to the Two Comma Club podcast. Today I'm here with Jaime Cross. I was able to see Jamie speak on stage at FHL many times, and I'm really excited about hearing her story from her herself. So, Jamie, if you wouldn't mind kind of giving people a little background about how you got into the funnel world and all that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for having me, John. I started my entrepreneurial journey in the company that we own right now back in 2010. So it's been almost 15 years of entrepreneurship. And we started off in farmers markets and did that for a number of years, and actually just was building from that place of grassroots for 7 years before we saw any real solid fruit of our labor. I mean, starting in 2010, it took me a year just to go from ideation and thinking through the launch and the product and the formulations, because it's all e-commerce. We make our products in-house. To this day, we still make everything in-house. We ship everything in-house. Everything's done with our own team. And so it took me a year just to plan all of that and formulate and go through all the chemistry. And finally, when we launched, it was just taking product into shops and stores all throughout Colorado. Literally just had my stilettos and was walking in and out of stores, talking to owners and buyers, and doing farmers markets for years. And that was an opportunity for me to really get to know my customer and what they wanted and what their needs were, and get to know what needed to improve in my product. So by the time we actually got online 7 years later, we had a perfected product, and I knew my audience really well. And so we kind of cut through a lot of that clutter in the beginning. But it was 2016 that I just knew it was time to grow again. At the time, I was pregnant with our fourth baby boy. I was having some complications and was on bed rest for about 7 months. So I had a lot of time on my hands. And I just remember finding a video with Russell, and he was interviewing Trey, and he was talking about his gun cleaning kits. And I was so fascinated. And immediately in my own brain, I could see the symbol, the similarities. The fact that he was able to go to Walmart, buy these gun cleaning kits, put them into this funnel, and then sell millions of dollars. And I was like, man, if he can do it with gun cleaning kits, I can certainly do it with soap. And just went down the rabbit hole of Russell. And I remember so clearly the ad that really grabbed me, like the things that really spoke to me and pulled me in. It was you're just one funnel away from the bank account of your dreams, from the marriage of your dreams, from the family of your dreams, from the life of your dreams. And I started our company because we were in 2010, my husband was a full-time teacher. I'd given up a full-time career as a banker. I was doing investment banking, and so went from that to a one income family, and we were just really struggling in so many areas. And so entrepreneurship, my husband and I came together and just prayed through and just knew that entrepreneurship was going to be the unlock for us, that it wasn't going to be corporate, it wasn't going to be like climbing the corporate ladder, it was going to be owning our own business. And so I really took the reins on that vision and just ran with it. But by the time Russell came along, it was really perfect timing. And it was in reading his two books. I could not wait for Expert Secrets to come out, because I remember there was a waiting list. And just reading through the book, there were some real key unlocks for me that I knew would apply to my business. And when I did them, people talk about just do what Russell says. I just did that. I was teachable, and I remember the very, very clearly. It was, if you do a video live every day for a year, you'll make $1 million. And I thought, well, I need to make $1 million. So I started off very horribly, like in front of the camera, 4 people would show up. Nobody bought anything for months. My funnel wasn't working. I was building everything myself. I didn't have a design team, so I was working on pages, doing all my label graphics for my products, for all of our funnel stuff, recording things on my phone. Like, it was so low quality, but the quality of it was our product. So we had 72% repeat purchase rate. So people were coming back for our products, and the quality of our messaging. And so because I knew our audience so well, I was able to really tap into, and one of my passions is writing. And so I was able to really write and speak to the heart of our avatar. And so from that moment when I finally condensed his 90-minute perfect webinar down to a 5-minute version, which I had done over and over again and was going through a series of my own personal internal journey as an entrepreneur. And I think that's real key because I wasn't just seeking the tactical or the strategic unlock. I was trying to figure out, even in my own self, what do I need to do as an entrepreneur to grow here? And so I was going through my own personal journey, and our business was evolving. But finally, um, through a series of events and just processes and through prayer, going back to the drawing board, rewriting, redoing my script. Finally, it was September 10th, 2017, when I handed my 400,000th video to our ads girl and said, "Hey, I think this one might be a good one, and let's just try it out." And so, sure enough, that day we had made $1,000 in that first day. And
Let's
mind
go.
you, $1,000, like my husband was bringing home, like I think $2,200 a month after taxes. Um, Maybe it was even before taxes, but we were just not, that was massive for us. And then within 6 weeks, we had done 130,000. And in less than 6 months, we got the 2 Comma Club. We did over 1 million. And then from there, it was 2.5 years of crossing the 8-figure mark with soap. So, and lotion. And we had the new opportunity, and there was just so many different things that we dialed into. But that is the beginning of the story.
I love that. There's so much to unpack from that. Your journey is one of the most unique ones that I've heard out there. I mean, just from my own personal side of things, like I ask myself the question, like, how do some people succeed with certain things in the market and everything? But like, soap is the one where I'm like, wow, like there are so many different soap brands that I can't even name. But then you managed to come out with something that actually was able to impact people. And so I want to dive into a little bit about what was it exactly that you were looking to help people with the soap brand and all of those things?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Well, I knew from farmers markets because we'd have thousands of people. We were in Denver, at the time, and just so many people coming to our table, and they would ask for changes or can you make this product? And after 4 years of doing that, I knew that women, especially, they wanted a certain type of, they wanted light texture, but they wanted creamy and silky, but they wanted efficacy. So texture, efficacy, and then aroma was key. And so I had really dialed into that. And then with our soap is the same thing. A lot of our unique opportunity or, new opportunity was the fact that we had this aromatic experience. People would come from a half a mile down the other side of the market and they're like, "What's going on in this table? It smells so good." And then when you get the box, it's just an aromatic experience. It's just incredible. But we also use farm fresh beeswax in our products. And so one of my main hook in my webinar was, did you know that the most powerful thing for your skin, um, did you know that the most powerful ingredient for your skin does not come from plants? And that's really key because our avatar is like super crunchy and she's learning about natural. And she's like, wait, I thought plants was the best thing ever. And so I get down into the beeswax and the benefits of beeswax and why waterless, which interestingly enough, when I cracked this code in our messaging, waterless was like not even a thing. It was kind of a pioneering message. But the way the education worked, and one of the really key things I think with marketing today is that there's so much garbage marketing out there. But if you can make your ads and your marketing highly valuable, if somebody's going to spend 3, 4 or minutes or even 30 seconds or 90 minutes watching your stuff, they should feel like they're walking away with having learned something or discovered something that they didn't know before. And that is one key thing about the webinar was, man, I now know that I can't buy waterless lotion and I can't go anywhere else for my products because your stuff is farm fresh and it's these, the three secrets. And so um, that took a lot of just like chiseling down and perfecting, but it was mainly the waterless idea, waterless lotion, and
Definitely.
how water is dehydrating your skin.
That's awesome. Um, I'm really fascinated at how the timeline of events. It was quite long. You know, you said about 7 years before you ended up actually going online and things of that nature. And you know,
Mm.
as most of the entrepreneurs watching we can understand that, the journey is not straightforward. It's not easy. It's very difficult, and there are a lot of moments that test us. And ultimately, I guess the question I'd like to ask is like, what calling did you feel that was propelling you to push through those moments of adversity and like continue down the path even when it was like really really dark? If you want to save time on watching all the episodes, but still get all the gold nuggets that we find from interviewing these 7, 8, and 9 figure entrepreneurs, then you can get all of that inside of the 2 Comma Club newsletter. Just go to 2ccnewsletter.com and subscribe.
Yeah, that's a great question. Going back to the actual origin story was a very, very spiritually grounded like origin. I was in both Nathan and I were just in a season of really praying through what is the answer here, because we're getting calls from our utility company, and my credit card or my debit card is getting declined at the grocery store. This is back in 2010, and so needing that financial unlock was so such a process for us. And so I remember Nathan coming home one night, um, and he had this $25 gift card for an ice cream shop. And he's a very introverted, just gentle man, doesn't go out and like talk to people. He's got a classroom full of kids, but other than that, or put him on the wrestling mat and he'll go to town. But other than that, he's very introverted. So he came, went out, tried to sell this $25 gift card. He said, I need to go sell it so we can have some gas money this week, and came home, no takers. He tried to sell it for $12.50 and nobody would buy it. So that was kind of that was the breaking moment for me of like, okay, I need to take responsibility here as a mother and wife and say like, how can I help in the home? And I think a lot of women need that unlock, or that sense of like, it's okay. Like, I need to just do something about this. I'm not going to wait for something to happen, right? And so I remember just going to bed that night praying and asking God to show me $1 billion idea so that I could change the world and leave a legacy for my family. And it wasn't too long after that, we actually had this experience at church where our pastor kind of called me out and just was saying that, I think the Lord's saying that there's a stay-at-home mom here who he's going to give $1 billion idea to, so get ready for it. And so for me, when I finally had this dream, I about a week and a half later actually had a dream where I saw myself pouring oils, and it was like this business blueprint. And so for me, it was very much I'm on a mission to, and what's really interesting is it started off with a bar of soap. Every great thing starts off with the small thing, and then we have to be faithful with it. We have to steward it, right? And so I consider this a great responsibility to take this soap out to the world and help people with their skin. But now our message has evolved into a complete like body transformation. I'm a board certified doctor of natural health now, and so I'm helping people actually completely radically transform their bodies from the inside out. But it all started with skincare. We talk about beginning with skin. So for me, I knew that I was on a mission from the Lord, because everybody has a calling, right? We all have a purpose, a reason that we're here. And of course, for me, it's mother and wife. But as entrepreneur, we have to ask ourselves, like, what are we really doing? And through the course of 15 years now of entrepreneurship, that has continued to expand and even shift. Like, the vision that I started with is certainly radically different. Like, the primary calling and vision is there, but how we get there and continues to expand and shift and change. But I think if everyone takes the time to really get centered on that, they'll find answers, and it will be very easy to keep going, because it's like, how can I quit? I'm on a mission here.
Right. I love that. I love that attitude about really just like following what God has called you to do and all that. Faith has played such an integral part in my life and the lives of people around me and all entrepreneurs like yourself. And it's super powerful. Um, I love that story. Like, that is so good about really hearing the voice of God and getting that vision. I believe
Mhm.
if you said correctly, I might be mishearing you, but you said you had a dream and then like you woke up from it and that was the $1 billion idea.
Yeah, I told Nathan I'm going to start a skincare company. Actually, at the time, I said I'm going to start a soap company, and I mean, it's evolved now. And what's really interesting too is that the $1 billion idea, it's always starts with a seed, right? And who knows if it's this particular brand or if it's where I'm going as an entrepreneur that can take us to those levels. But um, I believe just through looking even at, the Bible, he wants to raise you up above all nations of the earth. And our responsibility is to stay faithful and dedicated and don't give up. Don't grow weary and well doing, because in the proper time you will reap a harvest if you don't give up. So that has been my mantra for 15 years.
I love that. That's amazing. So to take things back to the marketing side of things here, it sounds like you've had a whole evolution starting from in the farmers markets to getting on the online space. How are you
Mhm.
kind of getting discovered and letting people know that you had this product out here and you were trying to help people?
Yeah. Well, what's really interesting about our story now, it's taken some really radical shifts and change. I don't know about you. I know a lot of entrepreneurs are like this. I love calculated risk. I love to take risk. I'm a high risk taker, right?
100%.
So when we first started exploding, it was all Facebook and Instagram, and then getting invitations to speak at events. And being on stages was huge for me. Being on interviews like this, and connecting at events and in masterminds. And then in 2020, we decided let's go all in and turn our business model into a social selling model, which is a network marketing model, which we've actually in last year of August, we um, through a series of decision making processes, we really felt like it wasn't the right thing for us. So we've gone back into omni-channel now, but we spent 4 years where I was kind of behind the curtain and amplifying through a sales field, which was a whole set of, that was just a different model completely. But now back into e-commerce and getting, what's really interesting about the difference between what was happening between 2017 and 2020 and now in e-commerce and even in any business really is UGC. So we have VAs we're hiring, and I have an entire dedicated staff just to getting user generated content and getting these influencers and these creators. Like we are in the creator economy like never before. And so I'm becoming a creator. I've got an amazing team who are doing all the day-to-day stuff, and I'm really focused on becoming a content creator and then really connecting with other creators, whether they're influencers or actual celebrities, that kind of a thing. And then we're going to eventually create our own. I'm starting to create my own workshops, and we'll take it online, but I'm doing local live workshops about detox and about how to heal your body. If you can cleanse the blood, you can heal the body. And so um, there's never just one thing, there's never just one strategy. And I was talking with another entrepreneur, a founder yesterday about even Amazon and how he was talking with another founder. And he said, I told him because he wasn't on Amazon yet. And he said, 50% of your business will be Amazon because all these creators, there's this whole flywheel now with creators and UGC and Amazon. And he said, if you get on Amazon within 12 months, 50% of your business will be Amazon. And it was
Wow.
actually within 9 months. And this man already had like $100 million+ e-commerce company. Gets on Amazon, 50% within 9 months was eComm, and then all the UGC stuff. So where our focus now is how do we build relationship, curate the correct, the voices and the people and the right creators, and then really go deep. I think one of our superpowers is community and relationship and like nurture. Um, but again, there's never just one strategy.
100%. I love that. That is a wild statistic around Amazon. I have not heard that before. That I can
Yeah,
see it, but that's mind boggling. Wow,
totally.
gold nugget.
Yeah.
So, in terms of we touched on getting discovered. How about like what did you guys do to kind of nurture the relationships of the people who came into your ecosystem and kind of provide the value of letting them know like what problems you solve and things of that nature?
Yeah, absolutely. So multiple strategies there. I'll go back again to 2017 to 2020. It was all Facebook groups. Like by the time we shifted over into social selling, we had over 10,000 women in our Facebook group who were selling for us. Like just showing their unboxings, and a new person would come into the group and they'd be like, oh, I just got my blackberry serum. And you get 100 ladies that are like, oh my gosh, you have to try the moss and plum, or you have to try the lavender, or whatever. And that was a huge engine there. Um, Now the Facebook group is not as much of a focus. Now it's more about creating, like we're doing these guides and creating like the mini chat. So somebody comments guide and they get this free thing, and then they get the guide, and lots of me just going live and doing live trainings. And we're going to start doing live events though, virtual events to begin, but we've done live events. It's one of the great skill sets that we grew our muscles in when we were doing network marketing. But um, yeah, Facebook groups is not, I think people are fatigued on all the digital stuff. And so they're like, I don't want to be in another Facebook group, but we have a very strong email presence. And so we're sending 6 emails a week. And then we have a really great text strategy. And so we have people interacting and engaging on text. And we're also doing spa nights. And so people can get a live consult with our team, and then they can come to our spa nights and learn and discover and then kind of join the community that way. And so lots of hands-on, lots of nurture. Like we're not doing the the distance, just building a brand that is just so, I mean, there's a lot of really cool brands out there that aren't doing what we're doing. And so I question sometimes like how much of this nurture is like required. But I think it's like, if you want longevity in the marketplace and if you really want to beat people out, and having a podcast is another thing too. So I love what you're doing, but just
Thank you.
getting your voice and edutaining more than anything. People want to, there's info fatigue as well. So it's more about telling stories and being real and authentic. And I just had this conversation with our team yesterday. I was like, there's so much that's been created already, models that we can look at, and funnel hacking, and all of that is so important. But we also just need to like roll up our sleeves and figure things out, because we're going to do certain things differently. And there's not a roadmap for every single thing, I don't think. And then I always go back to who, not how. And so that's the big thing too, is like finding the right team members who are steps ahead of me, um, who are I can entrust to just be like, you figure out the email thing, you figure out the UGC thing, you figure out the shipping thing. So it's a process.
That's awesome. That term you used, I love it. Edutaining. I've never heard that before, and I love it. I'm like,
Uh,
for me personally, like I totally vibe with the idea of the content creator market and like wanting to get more into that space. I
mhm.
run this podcast and everything, but aside from that, I'm like, I don't know what else to put out there. Like, it's like I can put clips of it and stuff of that nature, but like, I don't know. I'm still getting comfortable in my own skin behind the camera. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people run into as they become the entrepreneur in today's marketplace. Because, as you said, you need that presence and you need to show people that you're human and that you're a person and things of that nature. So that's really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, in terms of your personal journey with doing the whole content creation side of things, how are you finding that you like to create content in the ways that you find most natural?
Yeah, that's a great question. It started off mostly with writing. As a solopreneur, like I was writing thank you cards to every person who ordered from us. You do what doesn't scale in the beginning, and writing posts and writing email copy, like just writing. And then video became a skill set that I had to develop. And then I found that, man, it's really valuable, and I'm okay. Like I love being in front of the camera, and then using my voice when I launched our podcast, the Her Effect, that was kind of another step. And so now I know they say that you're supposed to really focus on one thing, but right now content creation looks like podcast that turns into, it's kind of the waterfall effect. It's like whatever I'm creating at the top gets dispersed throughout our entire funnel and ecosystem, and it can get broken up into social posts and into all these different things. And so with the video and the audio on podcasting, that's really our focus. And I'd stepped away for a little bit through our just shifts in the business model, but getting back into it now. And also being a CEO and running a team is very time consuming and takes a lot of energy. So to be a content creator, go through the process of preparing and like coming up with really good content. Eventually I'll have that team that's just like the content team, right? But I'm still very much in it. But right now, yeah, podcast that has video and audio that we can break up and like amplify is the big thing.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, I've heard several different content creators out there talking about like the power of podcasts and stuff. And one little tidbit that I'll throw in there for anybody who's listening um, is the fact that I think what I've discovered so far in podcasting is that you really have two different audiences that you serve. There's the people that are actually the guests on the podcast like yourself, and then there's everyone who's watching. And really what you
Mhm.
need to do is you need to understand like who those people are and how you can help or add value to both of them. It's not really just one or the other. It's like you need to cater two different outcomes for two different avatars. And I don't know that I've ever heard anybody explain that before, but I did have a conversation yesterday with Robin Alex, the CEO of I'm sorry, he might not be the CEO, but the founder of High Level. And he was talking about how there's that kind of same situation there where it's like you have your direct audience you serve and then the downstream people. And so thinking about
Mhm.
tactics like that is interesting. So
It's really
um
interesting.
yeah, so with that being said, for you, do you happen to have an understanding of like who those downstream audience might be for you and your business?
Yeah. So, give me an example of downstream, what that might look like, because then I could give you
Yeah.
really.
So I guess when I hear about the network marketing side of things that you're talking about, it could be
Mhm.
like those network marketers, for example, are the first demographic that you serve. And then maybe the rest are like, if they're helping get the soap out there in more hands, is the people who actually get the soap in the end. So I guess,
Okay, yeah, I get it. Okay, yeah, and we're no longer network marketing, but I would say, and correct me if this isn't the correct, if I'm not answering the question correctly, but immediately it's really the people who are looking for change. They're not the experts. They're not really the crunchies actually yet. They don't really get the whole organic life, living the natural life thing yet, but they've just dipped their toes in. We found that if they're too crunchy, they're actually a lot of crunchy people are just it's just a whole different ball game, right? So these our people are very new, and then downstream would be more of like the practitioners. So the natural practitioners, the massage therapists, the oily girls who are doing all the essential oil things. Um, but and like the fitness group too, all the fitness people are really key. But it's does
yeah,
that make
yeah, that
sense? Does
that
that
makes
answer
total
the question?
sense.
Mm-hmm.
100%. That's really cool because it really goes to show like all the different partners and relationships and everything that you can build to kind of get that spread out and everything, which is really neat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've found a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times as of recent, I'm noticing how much relationships play a part in, the entrepreneurial journey. And it's like anybody who kind of says that they did it on their own, I'm like, I don't think you did. Like, so
No.
who are some of those people that played a really integral part in your journey and helping you to get where you're at today?
Oh, that's such a great question. Well, for sure, my husband, um, he has, if for all the women out there, like just has been so supportive, and he's my first line of defense and my mentor. Um, and I think that's like all the spiritual, like being grounded and like at peace, because entrepreneurship is such a wild journey. He's always been so steady, and I can go to him, and he just always brings me back to that place of um, okay, I just know everything's going to be okay, even though sometimes it doesn't look like it, right? We go through those seasons. Certainly Russell Brunson. I would forever, like, I just, I appreciate not just what Russell does and what he's built, but who he is. He is such an amazing mentor, so wise and hardworking, and really a great example of not only a marketer, but of just a person who is in business going through all the crazy wild journey things, and I love how transparent he is. Um, you know, Alex Hermosi is another big one, really following and like watching his journey. We were in Inner Circle together back in 2017,
Oh wow.
2018. So um, Alex and Layla have been hugely inspirational. And there's so many, I love Jenna Kutcher, just watching her from afar. She's amazing. I love her. She's working like 4 hours a week, I think I heard, raising her children and like killing it, making millions. That's
That's
very
awesome.
inspiring because I work a lot more than 4 hours a week at this stage. And man, I could make a whole list, but there's just a few.
That's awesome. I love that. Thanks for sharing. So to go
Mhm.
back to the marketing side of things again, we talked about getting discovered, nurturing relationships, and then you talked about your webinar and how you were able to transition into that. Could we dive into some of the dirty details of the funnel itself?
Sure. Yeah, of
Awesome.
course.
So if you wouldn't mind kind of describing like what it looked like, how you drove traffic to it, and kind of how you had it set up, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So back, what we were doing in 2017 to 2020, it's totally different than, when we turned the MLM off. So we went back into e-commerce last year. Um, it started to look very similar, but right now it's doing the. It's funny because at first we were working with an agency again last summer, getting all of our ads like set up, and our media buyer said, hey, send me like 20 pieces of content like this. And so I sent him everything he asked for. And then I said, and then please, can you test this webinar? It's like 4 minutes long. And he said, nobody, like, attention span is too low. Nobody's going to watch this, but I'll go ahead and give it a try. Well, it was our highest performing ad. And so I'm always like, everyone needs to have a webinar, whether it's 60 seconds long, a minute or 5 minutes or an hour long. Everyone needs to have a webinar. The psychology of the webinar is so powerful. So we actually have our own in-house team now, media buyer. Our whole marketing team is in-house. So we don't work with any agencies anymore. Um, and so people come to, we've also got what we're calling ugly ads. And so it looks like a Facebook post, but it's probably like a quote from one of our customers, or it's something that's more of a hook. And then the content in the copy of the ad is taking you down this rabbit hole. And so some of those are really working, but ultimately our webinar, or me face to camera with like a giant chunk of beeswax, we got to get people's attention. We've got like 3 seconds to do that now. So I got 40,000 pounds of beeswax in my shop right now. And so take a giant chunk of beeswax. And I'm like, did you know that the most powerful thing? And I've got the beeswax. Or even just like we talk about the dramatic demonstration, just taking the bar and like the whole time I'm talking, I'm just doing this. And it gets people interested. And actually, I did a perfect webinar in my talk at Funnel Hacking Live. And so we've spliced that 5 minute webinar. I had the sparkly shoes. I don't know if you were there, if you remember that, but that's one of our highest performing ads right now. We're just driving traffic to that thing. And I should be selling shoes too, because we've had hundreds of comments that are like, I want the shoes. Where do you get the shoes?
Could be
Um,
the upsell.
yeah. So, and then again, it's, yeah, just the webinar is the main thing. And then UGC, we've got, I think, two or three different platforms or plugins with Shopify that are helping us to really cast a wide net. And so we're just getting our sea legs on that, like all that stuff dialed in.
Okay, awesome. So, in terms of the webinar, I know that what I've experienced a lot of times is like it's either free or it's paid, and then at the same time there is generally an upsell on the back end. And I'm curious to know like what's your value ladder?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Yeah, so they just watch the 3 minute, 4 minute webinar or whatever the information is, and it's always educational or edutaining. And once they come, once they go to the landing page, so we have landing pages now. that are just super simple. We've actually been testing like carousels and all the different, we're taking one component at a time and A/B testing every little thing from headline to image to subheadline to copy to bullet points to everything. And so once they've purchased, we have one upsell, and this is part of like getting the right plugins and all the Shopify things, because I would love to have 3 or 4 upsells, but we have an upsell that's like for another 10% off, you can get another lotion bar. And I think we're going to even boost that offer. So we've been A/B testing the different upsell offers. And if they don't take that, then there's a downsell for the soap, which is a great complementing product. But earlier, and when we first launched in 2017, we had 3 upsells. One of the upsells was actually getting on to subscribe and save. So we're even just boosting our subscribe and save offer now, where you're going to get, another key thing is like getting people on it and then incentivizing them to stay on it. And so we're offering right now, it's just free shipping if you get on subscribe and save, but we're going to do, you get free shipping plus 15% off that first order. And then the second order, you're getting 20% off. So it's harder for people to be like, oh, if I get off, I'm losing that extra 5%. I have to get work back up to it again. And then you lose your points. So like, don't leave because you've got all these credits, these points that you can use in the store. And if you get off subscribe and save, you're going to lose your points. And so really trying to make that sticky. And then we've got a really great just sort of win back series, and still working through our indoctrination sequence and our welcome series and all of that. Just testing emails now. We've gone from, we were having a pretty low click-through rate in some of our emails, but we've gotten quite a few of them back up to like 62% click-through rate. So having our copy in our email, a lot of times it is long form. We're turning those into blog posts with multiple backlinks. But making it available in the very first 3 sentences, where it's like, hey, if you want to skip to the end and just check this thing out that's going to benefit you, always has a benefit statement attached to it. Click here and it takes them to the landing page. So we're always looking for reasons, even in our text series. So our first week, if you subscribe to our messages, this is a really interesting fact, is one of our collaborators was working with another brand and said, hey, we started testing. We were getting like 18%, it was like conversion on or 18% of their revenue was coming from their texts. And they were sending one text a week. Cause I was like, we're in people's phones. It's a very intimate place. Like, I don't want to be sending them lots of text messages, right? And so they got to the point where they went all the way up to 3 text messages a day, and 28% of their revenue. And this was like over $10 million in revenue of a difference for them, because they're a bigger company. So in the first week, when you subscribe to us, because people are interested when they first buy from you, they're like excited. We text 3 times a day. One of the text messages actually says comment story, and it takes them to the website and they get to see the story. Text us back if you have questions, and our team is actually interacting and engaging on text with them. And so that's very, just engaging and always looking for reasons to get people to come to the site, and trying to keep the site so user friendly and not distracting. Things like, it's interesting because the carousel was like 50% lower conversion. So we took the carousel off of our product pages, our landing pages. So we're just doing all that stuff there.
So it sounds like you guys are doing a lot of helpful split testing then.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give to some of the newer entrepreneurs that are listening in terms of understanding the different elements that they should be split testing, and kind of how to navigate? Maybe they're in the beginning phases of everything and they don't have a whole lot of capital to invest into ads to split test, but kind of how to
Okay.
manage that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, that's another thing. Like, it's amazing to me how much has changed since 2020, when we were getting 2 to 3 on our ROAS, and now like we're happy when we get 1.5. When we're at like 1.5, we're excited about that. And so it's very costly now to acquire a customer. And so in the beginning, it's interesting. I got this inspiration from Jamie Kern Lima, who sold her business, It Cosmetics, for like $1.3 billion. It was the highest, I think, female acquisition, like cash for this kind of a brand. And so I did dinner with her through a mastermind a couple years ago, and she said she was talking with another founder of another skincare brand that was doing over a billion, and they said if we could go back to the beginning, we would have one product. And she said it's tempting to meet the demands and listen to all the clamoring of the customers because everybody wants everything, right? But if you focus, you can build $1 billion company with one product. And so my first recommendation is it's very expensive to carry inventory. Start with one hero product, and we've actually cut our inventory in half. Like some of our somewhat popular things, we've just gone away. Like it was painful for people and for us too, but we parted ways, and we've just been focusing on some very key products that are high margin and super sticky and high interest. And then as far as split testing goes, though, in our ads, we spent the first 60 days just testing the hook, like who are we talking to? And we figured out that women want effortless beauty and they've got dry, itchy skin. So in a lot of our marketing, we're saying things like effortless beauty and dry, itchy skin. Like if you have itchy skin, and so, really testing for the messaging was key for us because it increased everything and made everything just work a lot easier. And even in our copy, like on our landing page, we're using words that we know were very sticky and converting highly in our tests. But then, as far as the landing page, it should just start from the top and work your way down. You want the benefit statements and the most potent information above the fold where people aren't having to click through and like look for information. And so we less is more. And so we started by testing just the main headline and then like the information below it. And now we're going through and we're testing like um, just the different components below the fold, right? And making improvements. And so, but if it's, it is expensive to do all of that, the best thing you could do is just keep it simple, focus on one product, one landing page. One of my mentors, oh, Ezra Firestone, I should have mentioned him, of course. Russell and Ezra have been two of my greatest influences and mentors. And Ezra's whole focus is e-commerce, and I'm in his mastermind as well. But I had a conversation with him not long ago, and he said, don't even worry about your website within the context of like, you are like back in startup mode because we essentially hit reset last summer. So we started over kind of, other than having a list and having a proven product, but going from the beginning of all of our marketing again. He said, don't even focus on your website, get your landing page. And he even gave me examples of some landing pages that he knew were already converting highly based on his own brands. And so we just modeled what he did and really just focusing on one product. And so we're now, after 6 months, just branching out into creating another landing page for one other product. But ultimately, like, I think it's really important to have one offer and figure out all those angles, for the one offer and don't get distracted.
That's awesome. I love that. Niching down is so important and finding that one thing. Um,
Mhm.
I think Alex Ramosi said it, and it was talking about the woman in the red dress concept. And it's like everybody is going after that next shiny object thing and all that stuff. And it's like that is the one thing that distracts you from expanding on what is working, you know?
Right.
And I think your story really, really well illustrates that. Um, so we're in 2025 now, and you said you're kind of in this new reset era and everything. What are the goals for the year that you have coming up?
Yeah, the goals are just to, I would say, like, the word for me this year is uh, maybe stabilize. Like, lots of change last year. Last year was a very challenging year. I know across the board for a lot of businesses. I mean, changes in the economy, but just changes in our business model, lots of hardship and like figuring things out. And so this year, it's just like, okay, we're being consistent. We're staying focused on the one thing that we know is going to work and going deep with people. I would rather go wide or go deep with the right people than go wide with, a bunch of noise. And so we're really just, um, what was it? Bill von Fometti. Did he talk? He spoke at
Yeah.
FHL, I think, but he talks about the F word, which is focus. you
Yes.
know, um, and so focus, focus, focus is the key for sure because um, we're almost already back up to where we were before we were MLM, like getting our numbers back up. It's happening quickly for us, but it certainly has not come without a battle.
Definitely, definitely. So, in terms of hitting those goals, what would you say is kind of like the big domino that you guys are up against? That if you knock it over, everything will end up falling into place and you'll hit those goals?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's truly the UGC and the creators like casting that net and having the system and the machine that is like a plug and play. So creators come, they promote the product, and then we're able to take the good stuff, like the really good ads that these creators are creating, and like turn them into ads on our platform. Um, but and then they get paid, we get amazing content, they get paid, and we constantly have this cycle. And then it's just this thing that builds on itself. I've seen some other big brands. It's like, man, you see the same ads over and over and over again, and it's just that. It's just like hammering down, um, and continuing to. But I think UGC is the big thing, and like tapping into the creator market.
That's awesome. So, what strategies are you guys going to be using to kind of get into that creator market and build those relationships?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are using platforms like Upwork, and obviously tactics and platforms can change, but there's multiple platforms within Shopify that are kind of they do a lot of the heavy lifting on the technology. So we have we send out, like, let's say 50 invitations a day, and we might get like 5 of those people that respond, and then out of those 5, maybe we get one that's actually good at selling. And so, but you just keep doing that, and using the platform. And then, we're sending out free product, or we're maybe paying some of these creators like $100. A lot of the bigger, we call them macro and micro. So we've got macro influencers and macro creators. And then we've got the micros who've got like 10,000 or less followers. And we're sending them handwritten cards and product so that they can experience for themselves. And we've had some really great responses. We've got some actual celebrities who are responding right now that we're talking to.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but just using the platform. And then again, it's building relationship is kind of like step 3. The first step is just sending out mass invitations, getting the responses, like vetting those people, and then seeing who can actually sell. So by the time you get to step 3, it's like, okay, now let's build a relationship. Let's go deep. Let's keep this thing going. You're getting paid. We're enjoying your content. People are being impacted because our products are amazing. And then getting our repeat purchase rates up is really key as well. Like getting just the retention is really huge in any e-commerce business.
Yeah, definitely. I know one of the topics that we talk a lot about on here is like recurring revenue. And what's fascinating is in the ecom space, it looks different than a lot of the other individuals that we've had on here because they build maybe like a community or something, and it's like a paid subscription every month or anything like that. But like when it comes to ecom, one of the things that it wasn't inherently um, something that I noticed right away with it, but I always thought like how do ecom get recurring revenue? And it's kind of like that repeat purchases, right? So what kind of methods do you have in terms of being able to increase that retention, or things that you've done in the past that have worked really well for that and getting those repeat customers?
Yeah. Well, you have repeat purchases. So people just come back to the site and they want to buy your product again. So, I mean, email strategy, win back campaigns where it's like, hey, you haven't purchased in the last 6 months. Let's give you 20% off. Come back to the store and we'd love to see you again. All of those automations through email, um, just boosting and like creating the ads. Like we're always we're opening our mouth and like using our voice and we're talking to people. And then there's contract repeat purchases where people actually decide to join subscribe and save. And so something that I've heard, actually Alex talks about this and we're going to test this, but you take what you know is working out there from your top, like looking at the industry and saying these are some of the best offers that are out there, combining those offers and saying, okay, we're going to make a really incredible subscribe and save offer. So for us, it's like the the 15% off that first purchase plus free shipping, plus you're getting loyalty rewards for being on subscribe and save. And then in that second month, you get bumped from 15 to 20%. So you're getting 20% off free shipping and loyalty rewards. And the hope is that obviously that they'll stick around. And one key thing too, though, is that like our people, we have over an 80% open rate on our emails. So our women love our content. We're sharing high value, just whether it's a juicing recipe or information about how to balance your hormones. We're not just talking. We're Answer the Public is great to have a membership too, because we're learning like, well, what are people actually asking about? What are trending topics that we can be talking about and answering the questions of the public. And so Answer the Public is really huge for us and gathering data around what topics we should be talking about and creating our content strategies. Um, so that's really huge there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I heard Answer the Public for the first time in episode 5 with a gentleman by the name of Dave Cousins,
Hmm.
and it was a total gold nugget the first time I heard it. So if this is your first time hearing about it and you're listening to this, you need to check it out. It's phenomenal.
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely.
so one of the final questions I like to ask is, we live in a day and age where we have the unique ability of being able to record things via video that future generations can see for years to come.
Mm.
What would kind of be that one piece of advice or one thing that you learned that you think all future generations should be informed on or receive as a piece of advice that has either
Mhm.
impacted your life or helped you get to where you're at?
Absolutely. Well, I can share probably one of my greatest mistakes. Um, and for all of the parents out there, there's nothing more important than your children and time with your children. And I spent a lot of years in the hustle trying to get out of poverty, that I was not present with my little guys, with my kids. And thankfully, like all of that is redeemable. I mean, my youngest is 4 years old, my oldest is 16. We spent a lot of time together, but in the last couple of years, just as like you feel your clock ticking, it's like, oh my goodness, every moment really matters. And no, I don't need to hop on the plane to go to that speaking event or go to that mastermind. I say no more than I say yes now, because anything I say yes to takes me away from what matters most, which is my family. And you can actually make a lot of money without the hustle and without being gone all the time and without, you can be wealthy and be present. And I think that's key, because the next generation needs our time. Children need time, they need attention, and they need quality time. And so my focus for my family has been like building something so powerful that my children want to be a part of it, but I want to build it with them. And so just really focusing on presence, while I'm also building wealth.
I love that. That is so heartfelt and so true. Every word you just said. Thank you so much for your time, Jamie. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for
If you could,
having
if you could let the listeners know where it is that they can either reach out to you if they want to get involved in what you have going on, or if you want to send
me.
them to a place where they can purchase some of your products, that'd be great.
Oh yeah, alchemycode.com is the best place. And we have the Her Effect podcast, which is revamping. And so we've got lots of stuff, good things coming out there. Alchemy Code is where our products are, and you can always find me through that.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Great to talk to you.
Likewise.